Testing 1, 2, Karen, you picking it up?
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. Clock on the wall was right at 9:39 this morning, so we won't go by that. So we'll open up today's meeting. I hereby call to order this regular meeting of the Morris Plains Board of Adjustment on October 28, 2024. All please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby announce that this meeting is being held according to Chapter 231 of the Open Public Meetings Act. Proper notice of meeting dates has been given to the Morris News Feed and Morris County Daily Record and posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Karen, roll call, please.
Mr. Baza? Mrs. Cortese?
Here.
Mr. Eapen?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mr. McCabe?
Here.
Mr. Webster?
Here.
Mr. Schultz?
Here.
Mr. Rizos?
Here.
And Mr. Cianciata?
Here.
All right. At this time, I'd like to ask board members, all who have been provided with a copy of the agenda for this meeting, to review the items on tonight's agenda and announce any recusals that may be warranted. We have a couple tonight.
Mr. Chairman, for application BA 3-24, I must recuse myself. Do I announce the reason why, or no?
No, you don't need to.
Okay.
And I need to recuse myself from application BA 524.
And I usually forget to leave time to leave the table, but I won't tonight, I promise.
I will be recusing myself from BA 524.
Okay, I didn't get the last one,
Myself, Karen, BA 524.
so it's Lisa and you at BA 5?
Yes.
Okay. The next item on tonight's agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 regular meeting? If there are none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. This part of the meeting is to hear comments from members of the public on matters other than those items on tonight's agenda. Are there any members of the public who wish to make comments? Seeing none, we'll close that part of the meeting. The first application for this evening's meeting is application BA 4-24, Yevgeny Odigo, 42 Franklin Place, Block 67, Lot 14. The application is being reviewed for completeness only tonight. There will be no testimony heard. Is an attorney for the applicant present? All right. And-
Excuse me, Mr. Schultz, Chairman, I would like to say that everybody received the package that I received on Friday afternoon at around 4:45. And I think that is the comments, they're doing whatever the comments were. from the-
But it wasn't received more than 10 days, and it wasn't received within the 10-day period, so we're not allowed to
No.
consider it at tonight's meeting.
Right, but I just wanted you to be aware of what the packet is in your.
All right, so I'll ask board members to just not look at it tonight. We can't consider it for tonight's meeting. In the event that the applicant comes and listens to the recording of the meeting, I'd like to have the professionals run down their completeness comments, starting with the borough engineer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submitted my report dated October 17th. I'm referring to that here. In that report, I found the application to be administratively incomplete. There were two items deficient, directly deficient. That would be the completed application form. Items 19 and 20 through 24 were not completed in the application form. And item 18 in the checklist requires the certified list of property owners within 200 feet. That was not provided. So on that basis alone, the application is incomplete. Then there are requests for waivers, which we will probably get into the issues on that tonight, but they are because there's no one here to present any testimony regarding it. But items, for the record, checklist items 12, 15, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29, and 30 are waiver requests.
there any that you would not recommend to the board on the waivers?
Yes, the, item 24G1 through 4, which has to do with summarizing building coverage within 500 feet of the site, and the reason for that is this application does have a building coverage variance involved. So we'd like to see what the neighborhood holds in the surrounding area. Other than that, I haven't made any determination on the other waivers.
Liz?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I did my completeness letter dated October 21st, 2024. A couple items where I differ from engineer Widen, or not differ necessarily, but just for 24G3, this is again the building coverage where they had requested a waiver, and the checklist requires those calculations for within 500 feet. I recommended in my letter that the board consider making it less than 500 feet, as the board has done for some recent applications. So that's something to consider. The only other one that I wanted to note was 28, which is they were requesting a waiver from providing special reasons pursuant to a D variance, and there is no D variance involved, and so I recommend that the board waive that.
So let's talk about the 500-foot requirement. So in the past, the board has unanimously agreed on 200 square feet on residential applications such as this. So again, in the event that the applicant comes in and listens to this, I'd like to get board feedback on that one particular waiver. Is there anybody who'd object to bringing it down to 200 feet? No. All right, so let's make a motion just on that one waiver to not grant the waiver for 500 feet, but reduce it to 200 feet. Would there be a motion to that effect?
I make that motion.
Saji made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Karen, roll call, please. Just, I'm sorry. I should have asked for complete and incomplete as part of that. Saji, would you amend your application to deem this something?
I would amend my motion to deem this incomplete, subject to the professional's recommendation.
And grant the one waiver down to 200 feet.
Yes.
Is there a resecond of that?
I'll resecond that.
Thank you, Bob. Karen, roll call, please.
Mrs. Cortese?
Yes.
Mr. Sachet? Mr. Eapen?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Mr. Webster?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Rizos?
Yes.
And Mr. Sanciano.
Yes.
All right, so the application is deemed incomplete. The one matter is down at 200 feet, and the applicant, if he or she listens to this, is welcome to contact the borough's engineer or planner directly if need be. Resubmittals and additional information must be received by the board secretary no later than November 15th, 2024, in order to be considered for the November regular meeting. All right, as promised, I will pause for recusal because we're going to hear application BA 524. Maybe there's a good seat in the break room over there. And let the record show that Ms. Cortese and Mr. Webster left the table. The next application, this evening's meeting is application BA 524, Matthew Mitchell, 30 Jaqui Avenue, block 63, lot 6. The application is being reviewed for completeness only tonight. There will be no testimony heard. Is an attorney for the applicant or the applicant present? All right, with a strong sense of deja vu, in the event that the applicants want to listen to the recording, I will ask the board's professionals to review their completeness comments. Starting with the engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I submit a report to the board dated October 17th. I'm referring to that report right now. In that, I determined that the application was administratively incomplete for the absence of 4 specific items. Specifically, item number 2, which has to do with the completed application form. Items 21 and 23 on that form were not completed. Actually, they were completed, but not by the owner. It requires the owner to make those acknowledgements, and it was not done by the owner. Item 24A, topographic survey. has not been provided. Item 24E, elevations at the building corners and paved areas have not been provided. And elevation of the building, I mean the topographic elevation, not the building elevation. And item 24G3 has to do with the surrounding neighborhood survey of existing building coverage situations for the neighborhood, similar to the prior. So that's all the directly incomplete items. Then there are a number of waivers requested. The waivers are requested from item 24G, 1, 2, and 4. From item 26, which has to do with wetlands, and from items 29 and 30, which have to do with steep slopes and riparian zones.
And there are none on the site.
That's correct.
Liz, you
Yes, so my letter is dated October 21st, 2024. The one thing I will just add, for 24G, which again has to do with making some calculations and representations of the buildings in the neighborhood, they do request a waiver for 1, 2, 3, and 4. I would recommend that the board grant those 1, 2, and 4, but not, again, just the same as the previous application, 24G3, where they request a waiver for providing building coverage within the neighborhood. But again, I would recommend that the board consider limiting the range of, from the property boundaries of the calculations that they would need to provide, from 500 to less than 500 to 200 perhaps.
Any questions for the professionals' comments on completeness from members of the board? And if not, would there be a motion?
Can I, real quick, on item number 2, completed application, items number 23, 21, and 23. Check this down. That's not this thing. 21 and 20. Am I looking at the wrong stuff?
So you're gonna see, you're gonna see that they're completed, but that's not the owner.
So that's not his signature?
I don't know if it's not a signature, that apparently is not the owner, that person.
Of the property. It's the applicant, not the owner. Oh, so, yeah. That's what it's about.
There's the owner. That's the applicant, so it's a trustee and family trust is the actual owner, so.
Yeah, it's a little
Council's approval,
complicated.
Right, and, yeah. But this is not, Mr. Sullivan, this is normal for when somebody else or another party owns it, they have to consent to the application and sign off on it, and they have. Okay. Thank you.
So you were looking for a motion?
Looking for a motion, is there a motion to deem this incomplete with the identical waiver that we just talked about on the previous application to reduce the 500-foot requirement down to 200 foot?
Mr. Chairman, make such motion.
So, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Carr, second. Karen, roll call, please.
Mr. Eapen?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. McKay?
Yes.
Mr. Schultz?
Yes.
Mr. Razas?
Yes.
And Mr. Cianciano?
Yes.
All right, and again, in the event that the applicant listens to the recording, they are welcome to contact the borough's design professionals directly. Resubmittals and additional information must be received by the board secretary no later than November 15, 2024, in order to be considered for the November regular meeting, and they should talk to council if need be on the ownership versus applicant issue. The board can't offer legal advice. All right, we'll pause for a moment to bring the folks back.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna recuse myself, I'll bring them in.
Sounds good, thank you. Let the record reflect that Ms. Eapen is leaving for the next application.
No, I understood.
Let the record reflect that Lisa Cortese and Bob Webster are back at the table. The next application for this evening's meeting is application BA324, Chick-Fil-A Inc., 1711 Route 10, Block 161, Lot 1. The application was deemed complete last month. Karen, has the applicant paid appropriate fees and has proof of proper notice been verified?
Yes.
All right, given this, testimony regarding this application may be heard tonight. Before we go any further, I'll ask the board attorney to swear in the board's professionals.
Ms. Blaney and Mr. Ride, would you raise your right hand so you swear to tell the truth in matters pending before the board?
I do.
All right, and I see an attorney setting up. When he's ready, please place your appearance on the record.
You're all set, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, folks. Nice to see everybody. For the record, Larry Cali on behalf of the applicant, Chick-Fil-A Incorporated. We'll probably be relatively brief this evening on direct, Mr. Chairman and members. We'll certainly go through all the items of the reports that are potentially still lingering and warrant discussion and answer all the board questions, but relatively singular improvement here for the existing Chick-fil-A site that's in town. And just for the record, the subject property is 1711 State Highway Route 10. It's block 161, lot 1. There's an abutting site, lot 3. It's a large shopping center. I'm sure the board knows the site. Chick-fil-A is the pad on the site in the B3 zone. This board approved the application back in 2019 for the development of the Chick-fil-A restaurant. Since then, Chick-fil-A has been operating very successfully here. They're enjoying their presence in the borough, and they're coming in now for what I will call and describe as an enhancement to more efficiently serve our visitors and guests on the site relative primarily to the drive-through areas. It's already existing. There are now going to be some improvements for the drive-through to help our folks come onto the property and enjoy their experience in a more efficient manner. And that's primarily what's driving the design here this evening, Mr. Chairman and members. There are also some other improvements. There's a canopy detail improvement. There's a retaining wall that's being built out of necessity. Our project engineer will get through all that shortly once we bring Mr. McKenna up here and qualify him and swear him in. But relatively limited improvements. Nonetheless, it triggers preliminary and final site plan review before the board, and it comes with it some very limited relief for steep slope disturbance by way of bulk relief. Our project engineer will walk through that as well. There's some design waivers that we will touch on in addition to that. We're going to try to keep it lean, Mr. Chairman. We think that this is primarily a design improvement project that warrants discussion from our civil engineer. We do have our traffic engineer with us as well as operators on behalf of Chick-fil-A, but there are no changes to the existing Chick-fil-A business operations. There's no new operating hours. There's no new secret sauce being introduced. So it's effectively the same Chick-fil-A, but with these site enhancements as we're describing them. So if we need more testimony, Mr. Chairman, if the board's not comfortable, we'll certainly go to the balance of our witness deck. But for now, we'll bring up Mr. McKenna. Primarily what you're going to see are going to be the plan sheets that we've provided. We're going to have some mocked up, an aerial, a color site rendering. We'll mark them as exhibits once we introduce them to the board. We'll go through the board reports and our direct testimony. We'll go from there, Mr. Chairman.
Good,
Thank you.
Mr. McKenna, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth in the matter pending before the board?
I do.
State your name and business address.
With Kyle McKenna, Bowler Engineering, 30 Independence Boulevard in Warren, New Jersey.
Kyle, briefly for the benefit of the board, your background and credentials in the field of civil engineering?
Sure, so I have a Bachelor of Science degree from Rutgers University in Civil Engineering, licensed professional
Sir, you're
engineer.
gonna have to get closer to the
Oh,
microphone.
sorry. Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Rutgers University, licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is current and in good standing. I provided professional testimony before several planning and zoning boards throughout the state of New Jersey. Been with Bowler Engineering, working in land development for about 13 years. And I was involved in the design of this particular site.
questions on qualifications of this witness? I will accept him as an expert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, Kyle, you heard my process with the board regarding the limited improvements that bring us here this evening. If you would you mind walking the board through the site? We're going to talk about the existing conditions and the proposed improvements and where that leads us on the delta of relief, and we can go from there.
Sure. So I'd like to introduce my first exhibit. It's an aerial exhibit just to help illustrate the existing conditions on site, describe the current operation and movements around the site.
So an area, we'll mark it as A1, Mike?
A1. This is an aerial exhibit. Is that prepared by your office?
Correct. So this is an aerial exhibit prepared by Bowler, dated September 17th, 2024. I'm marking it as A1. And for the board's reference, north it's at the top left corner of the page, but I'll refer to north as to the top of the page. So the site fronts, as was described on Route 10, along the north boundary of the site, Littleton Avenue along the eastern boundary of the site. The site on this exhibit is outlined in yellow. It's approximately 27 acres in size, and the area subject to tonight's application is in the northwest corner of the site, outlined in red on this exhibit. It's a lease area for Chick-Fil-A, approximately 1 acre in size. Access to the site under existing conditions is provided. There's a right-in only along Route 10 near the center point, well, really I guess it'd be the northeastern corner of this particular lot. There is also a full movement access. If you go clockwise around the property near the southeastern corner, full movement access via a signalized intersection. And then just to the west of the subject lease area, there is a right out only onto Route 10 for folks egressing the site. The existing use Chick-fil-A can be accessed via drive aisle once you're in the site. There is a drive-through existing along the northern perimeter of the Chick-fil-A. You would access it in the westbound direction, going through the drive aisle along the northern edge of the site. Currently, it's an existing dual lane drive-through that tapers down to 1 lane, and then you circulate around the building in a counterclockwise direction to the through the order points and then to the pickup window for food delivery. We're proposing to improve that operation as part of tonight's application.
Before you do that, everything you just described in the past 3 minutes or so is existing to remain.
That's
that
correct. This is all existing. I'm going to be introducing a secondary exhibit to help cover the proposed improvements and illustrate the proposed improvements as well. One final just point on the existing conditions. So the site is generally flat, slight slope from the northwest direction down to the southeast. There is an embankment with a steep slope area along Route 10 along the northern edge of the site. It's a grade differential between Route 10 and our property of about 5 to 6 feet approximately, at a slope of approximately 3 to 1. So there is an existing embankment there. That's important just to note for the proposed condition and description of the retaining wall Mr. Kelly referenced earlier. If there's no further questions on existing conditions, I can introduce my next exhibit and move on to proposed improvements.
Questions from board members on what's on the easel?
Everybody see okay with that angle we have on the easel? Yeah. You okay with that?
That's better.
Better, yes, sir. All right, I'm gonna mark this as Exhibit A2 and I'll provide a description. So this is a colorized version of sheet C2.1 that was submitted with the application. It's basically the site plan sheet C-2.1. We colorized it to help illustrate the improvements and then superimpose the existing aerial of the site in the background just to help provide context.
The dates change on that? I think that sheet was dated,
Yep.
revision date of August 19.
So this exhibit date is September 17th, 2024, just like the aerial. Same orientation north to the top of the page for reference. All right, so as we mentioned, the proposed improvements are generally limited to the north and west side of the existing building. So the building is remaining unchanged as far as square footage, pedestrian access, things like that. What we are proposing to do is to expand the area just to the north of the building so that you will have 2 lanes for the drive-through around the entirety of the building. So you'll go through the ordering point just like you do today, but then you'll have 2 full lanes continuing around counterclockwise, same orientation as existing, up to the meal delivery area where we are proposing a canopy. It's approximately 2,000 square feet in area. It runs along the majority of that western facade of the building. And that canopy will just provide protection from the weather for the team members that are servicing and providing meal delivery to the customers. There will be fans and heaters installed underneath the canopy. The canopy has a total height of approximately 11 feet with a clear height of approximately 9 feet. So just a little further description on the drive-through lane. So you'll notice that there are 2 lanes all the way around the site. There is yellow striping on the inside perimeter, between the building and the drive-through lanes, and then there's yellow striping between the 2 drive-through lanes for the team members to move around within the drive-through area to help support customer service, provide meals, delivery, and things of that nature. There's no change to loading or refuse removal or other operations outside of the drive-through, hours of operation, things like that. That will all remain the same. And as I mentioned previously, there's also a retaining wall on the north frontage. So because of that existing sloped embankment along Route 10 that we had previously mentioned, we are requiring disturbance to that existing steep slope area, which requires a variance because it's disturbance of the sloped area exceeding 20% in slope. As I mentioned, the steepest area is about 1 on 3 or 33%. We did submit a steep slope plan with the application, and we are requesting a variance for disturbance within that area and installation of a retaining wall that's approximately 3.5 feet of retained soil at the highest point. I think it's 3.8 feet at the highest point. With respect to landscaping, we're going to be maintaining as much landscaping as we can on site. We'll be planting an additional supplemental 31 shrubs to help infill some of the areas around the drive-through. Lighting will remain mostly unchanged. We are relocating 2 existing light poles near the northeast and northwest corner of the building, opposed on the opposing side of the drive aisle. In addition, we are proposing canopy lights beneath the canopy. So there's no new pole mounted lights, but we are requesting a waiver for the existing height of 30 feet. So there's an existing pole mounted height of 30 feet at this site, whereas 15 feet is permitted. So we are requesting a waiver for that deviation, but again, that's an existing condition. We're matching the height of the poles on site, and in fact, we're really just relocating 2 poles. We're also requesting a waiver for maximum lighting value at a property line. We are showing, again, this is really an existing condition, but we're showing up to 3.3 foot candles along the property line in the area along the frontage where it kind of tapers down along Route 10. And then there's also an exceedance of the 0.5 foot candle requirement elsewhere along the frontage of Route 10. But again, this is generally an existing condition. We're relocating 2 existing lights to facilitate the change in drive-through lanes. So we are requesting relief for that as well.
Can I just stop you a second? So there's no new light poles proposed, correct?
That's correct. 2 poles are being relocated.
And the lamp value is going down from the existing?
It's not going down. It's generally the same. We are increasing the light value in the area of the canopy because we're proposing lights beneath the canopy to provide a nice and just promote a safe environment where folks are going to be serving food. Vehicles are going to be customers are going to be in that area as well. So, with respect to stormwater, there is a slight increase in impervious cover. However, there is a net decrease in motor vehicle surface. So we feel it's really a de minimis impact to stormwater on the site. We are proposing an existing inlet to be modified, converted from a curb inlet to an area inlet. And then we are proposing that the gutters from the canopy would be discharging to the existing storm system on site. So you're not gonna have splash blocks or anything like that.
And coverage remains conforming under the proposed conditions.
Correct. Otherwise, with respect to the bulk criteria, outside of the steep slopes that I mentioned, we conform with all the bulk requirements. The only change really to the bulk requirements is side yard setback with the canopy, but it's still compliant. It's approximately 70 feet, whereas 30 is permitted, so we're still fully compliant from a bulk perspective. Oh, yeah, so there is another waiver as well for, we're proposing concrete curb for the site. That again, it's really an existing condition. The area, if you go out to the site today, really the area with the exception of the interior landscaped islands of the site is all concrete curb. So we're proposing concrete curb within the Chick-Fil-A improvements to the drive-through to match what's out there today. Like I said, it's essentially an existing condition that we're mimicking, but we are requesting relief for that.
Yeah, sure. So you had an opportunity to review all reports, but the latest reports issued on behalf of the board include the October 11, 2024 report of the board engineer, as well as the board planners report dated October 25th, 2024. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, I think your office had an opportunity to informally respond to the board engineer's report of October 11, 2024 in part. But if we can go through that now, Kyle, as to the open items, we can just respond on the record perhaps.
Certainly. So for number one, there's a question about compliance with the provisions with respect to volume for movement of soil. So I would not anticipate that this application would require 200 cubic yards. I believe it would be significantly less than that, approximately 50 or so. But I don't think we would be disturbing the amount of soil that would trigger that requirement.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
got a question on the witness?
Sure.
So, you say you're pretty sure, have you quantified it with any volumetric calculations or anything
Yes.
similar to that? So are you saying, yes, it's below 200 or definitively
Yes.
for the record?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So going down, number two, clarification. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So this is a good comment and good question. So the proposed improvements do expand the existing lease area. So there would be a renegotiated lease area and then a temporary construction easement agreement between the current owner and Chick-Fil-A. For number three, there's questions about protection of Route 10 embankment. So I did submit an exhibit for the retaining wall. Essentially, what we're proposing is, like I said, it's approximately 3.5 to 4 foot retaining wall. It's going to be a modular block gravity retaining wall is what we're anticipating. I do believe there's enough clearance between the proposed retaining wall. We have about 5 feet or more between the face of curb and the existing easement, which, based on the detail that we had submitted, it would provide enough room between the existing easement and the proposed face of curb to construct the retaining wall that we're proposing.
And your office is, of course, amenable to working with the board engineer and borough consultants as we go through building and construction and final design.
Yes. With respect to the Mall Associates report, we had actually Bowler had responded to that report. Previously, we provided written responses, and on August 22nd, 2024. Utility plan, so we do have a demolition plan that shows the existing utilities to be relocated. There's some electric services for the existing light fixtures that are going to be relocated, and then, like I said, modification to an existing drainage structure. But again, happy to work with the board's professionals if there's any other concerns about utilities on site. So for the retaining wall detail, we had submitted, the applicant had submitted an exhibit to provide some supplemental detail on what was proposed. I just provided testimony about the modular block gravity retaining wall for the proposed retaining wall that is being referenced here in this comment number 6.
Chairman, I can say for the record here that I did review that plan that was submitted for the wall, and that satisfies my comment here. Everything is properly done. We're satisfied with that.
Thank you. Comment number 7, I provided some testimony on the steep slopes. Again, with the proposed retaining wall, it's not, it's already a previously improved embankment. So it's a situation where I think we can, through standard construction practices, stabilize the slope, install the retaining wall, and not have any sort of negative detrimental impact to the steep slopes conditions out there. So unless there's further questions on that, I think my testimony had addressed that.
Yeah, and I know you've already displayed it with the illustration of the Exhibit A2, but we're not talking about a large area of impact here for the retaining wall improvement.
No, so it's really, like I said, at the absolute most, I believe the height on our plan is 3.8 feet maximum retained earth height, and it's really just this area along the northern edge of the proposed drive-through expansion. So, and that does vary. So it starts at, varies. The majority of it's going to be about 2.5 feet, going up to about 3.5 to 4 feet in the middle. The remaining comments are identifying the waivers and variants, which I had previously identified.
Mr. Chairman, again, I would note that I would support those waivers. Pretty obvious face value.
And I think from a design perspective, and Liz, please cut me off, I think we've addressed the overlapping concerns and issues raised in your report, but if there's anything left in there that you'd like to go over, we can certainly go through it before Kyle concludes his direct.
I think the only thing that maybe you haven't discussed is just verifying the pedestrian walkway sign heights.
So that would be 7 feet minimum, which is based upon the requirements of the municipal unit traffic MUTCD, which is our standard reference for pedestrian signage. So 7 feet to mitigate any impact with pedestrians' heads.
Okay, and then as you said, the existing lighting structures are just being relocated, so it's actually the same
Correct,
pole
yes.
that's being relocated, okay?
Or, yeah, and if it couldn't be reused, it would be it would essentially be replacing kind.
With the exact same?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's it from my letter. Aside from, I don't know if you want more planning testimony for this, or for the steep slope or not.
Let's see if there's any questions on the testimony so far. Phil,
Okay.
any engineering?
No, I was gonna make a comment on the steep slope at this point. That's, I
Go
can
ahead.
hold that until you're ready.
Take it away.
So, I just wanted the engineer to put his comments on the steep slope disturbance on the record. Because typically, steep slope disturbance, we're concerned about disturbing natural slopes, the environmental concerns regarding that. This is a man-made slope, it's been disturbed, there's no great concern here for disturbance of that steep slope, in my opinion. So, but I wanted that to be reflected in the record.
Understood, thank you.
And Mr. Ryan, you don't have any comments from your report that would need to be carried forth as a condition in the event the application is approved, correct?
No, I'm satisfied with the response to item 1 regarding the soil disturbance, so that would have been the only one that would have been.
Liz, any questions on the engineering testimony we've heard so far?
I do not know.
Questions from board members? I have 3, I'll throw them out there. The canopy height, so you said 9 foot clear. That will not clear the local ambulances, so has there been thought to give a little more headroom on that? Is there a downside to getting another 6 inches to a foot out of that?
So the 9 foot clear is with the fans and heating elements that are being proposed beneath the canopy. Based on the architectural plans that were submitted, I believe it's 9'6". So if that's a requirement, that's something we could look at if there's a concern about clearance of ambulances.
Well, are there vehicles driving under it at all, or is it just people under there?
No, it is vehicles. So it's customer vehicles utilizing the drive-through that would travel through there. 9 feet is quite tall, so your standard ambulance would be able to go underneath that, but if there's a unique condition for emergency services here, I think we could meet with them and make sure that they're satisfied with the circulation of the site. We're not gonna be having trash trucks or delivery vehicles or anything like that going through there. It's really just for passenger cars.
On a planned basis, you won't.
Correct.
So, in the event that there's an oversized vehicle that manages to get there and sees that they won't fit, what's the exit strategy?
So there are clearance bars, so I mean, it would be very unlikely that I think that it would get to that. It's just like, you know, driving into a parking garage or any other structure that has, you know, a low clearance height, you wouldn't be able to access. You would be warned as you access the car.
Okay. I would ask that you can, as a 20-year ambulance driver for the Minutemen here, I would ask that you look at 9.6.
Okay.
There. All right. Are you aware of the borough's position on the Route 10 widening, the easements, and as you know, as we've heard cases along Route 10, we're preserving that ability?
Not specifically.
I am, Mr. Chairman, we
Is
discussed
there
this.
anything on here that gets in the way of that?
No, not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chairman.
Bill, do you see
I'll
it?
defer to our project engineer, but I don't believe so.
Bill, do you agree?
Yeah, that whatever, that wall, for example, if there's gonna be widening, that could be removed, replaced, whatever, the state will do what they have to do. It's a big deal to widen that anyway, so this would not be a great impediment to doing that.
Okay, just wanted that on the record, thank you. And will future testimony this evening talk about signage or lack of changes or additional signage or anything?
This is intended to be our only witness today, Mr. Chairman, so Mr. McKenna filed the civil engineering plans. We've got a Atlantic traffic report in the record going back to March, and you've got the architectural cut sheets which show the canopy. There's not much to look at there. So this was intended to be our one and only witness tonight, so if there are questions, the delta of signage is effectively zero as far as business signage goes. There's no new business signage proposed, there's no new change to the hours of illumination of any signage or anything like that. But if there are specific questions about any new directional signage you might propose, anything that's in the field that maybe you've observed over time that you think warrants discussion, Mr. McKenna will be the witness for that this evening.
Liz, do you have any questions on signage for this application?
My understanding, what Mr. Cali just said, it was my understanding as well, that there was no new signage. And obviously, there's a lot of signage existing on the site because I share the site with so many other businesses. So the main sort of signs are for the whole shopping center. And so I think there's some additional, maybe directional signage.
The only signs being proposed are really in response to the review from the board's traffic engineer, some supplemental pedestrian signs at the crosswalk. Outside of that, there's really no proposed signage as part of the application.
Other board members have questions for this witness in this testimony?
I actually have another question.
Please.
Just, I know, having gone to the site, that you have people out front, you know, with like iPads or whatever, taking, you know, helping people order. Those people wouldn't be under the canopy, right?
So the canopy only covers the meal delivery area, not the order point. Unfortunately, there's not enough room on this site to provide a canopy for the order point as well. But
Okay.
it would provide it for the meal delivery area.
So those people, I was just curious why those people were not, you weren't providing canopy for them.
Yeah, so the preferred layout would be canopy for both, but on this site, really the meal delivery area is the only area that there's enough room to fit the proposed canopy like we have it with the orientation of the drive-through. So we're trying to make as many improvements as we can to the site, but that's really why.
Okay, and there no, sort of a tangential question was, you know, the way your site operates now, where you do have people sort of when you first get there, and then, you know, along the way, there's no proposed changes at this time to that sort of operation.
So generally, it would function very similarly, except you would have the availability of a secondary drive-through lane. So the operator does have discretion on best means and methods of operating those drive-through lanes based on as they see fit with the need and demand. There's some flexibility built in on how the operations occur, but it's generally going to be a similar operation, except now you're going to have that option for the secondary lane all the way through to help mitigate any backup or queuing issues on site.
Okay, thank you.
will say that Bill Widen and I spoke early on in the application, and we both felt that the traffic report kind of stood on its own, and this is more of an engineering exercise than a traffic study, so that's why Mr. Maltz isn't here tonight.
Exactly. Agreed.
Any questions from members of the public for this witness? Okay, seeing none, the witness can step down.
Thank you. That essentially is all we have for you this evening, Mr. Chairman and members. You know, as we indicated, it's a relatively straightforward and limited application for an enhancement and efficiency improvement for our site, which is already doing very well. Hoping that it can do even better with these limited improvements. Very limited relief. These steep slopes is, in my opinion, somewhat hyper-technical, given the fact that they are man-made slopes, and this is not us cutting into a mountain, like a typical application would see slope disturbance. So we think it's all warranted here under the circumstances. And we have no further witnesses, Mr. Chairman. We do have other members of our team here, but I think I don't want to belabor the point. I think the board understands the crux of the relief, the purpose of this, as well as the justification based on Mr. McKenna's testimony. So we'll rest there.
I do need to open up, and want to open up the application for comments or testimony from members of the public on the case in general. Seeing none, we'll close that part of the meeting. I think we just heard your closing statement, is that?
Yes, sir.
accurate? All right. So now's the time for members of the board to discuss testimony presented and deliberate. We would review any conditions of approval if it were headed to approval, and then ultimately make a motion and vote. Do you have any thoughts they want to put on the record?
There are no conditions for approval.
Not from Mr. Ryden, but I think I would suggest that, sorry?
Mr.
Yeah,
McKay,
yeah.
you have to get closer.
Yeah, what I was gonna suggest is that in addition to our standard conditions, if there is a motion to approve, and again, this is an application for amended preliminary final site plan, variance relating to the steep slope, and then the 3 exceptions that they sought. But well, there are exceptions in the MLUL. So, I think because there was a 2017 and 2019 approval, I think we would carry forth all those conditions that are not inconsistent with this approval. We had discussed, raising that canopy clearance to 9 foot 6 inches. Other than that, that's the only thing I would include.
Thank you. All right, so I'll say, for the record, sometimes an application is that simple, right? So, when we get return cases, I go back and I look at relief granted on previous ones. Are we adding burden that shouldn't be there? This one to me is just simply an improvement for flow and safety. So there are no downsides. There are upsides. I don't even know that this would be here if the original cases weren't in front of this board, right? This would be an engineering exercise to kind of get done. So I think that's straightforward.
The only concern I have is the foot soldiers handling 2 lanes versus
Can you
1.
just get closer to the mic?
I said the only concern I have is basically the workers that are out there on their feet now tending to 2 lanes versus 1. It doesn't sound like a perfectly safe environment for them with the additional traffic. I just want to get on the record as saying that.
So are they doing 2 lanes now?
There are.
Yeah.
But at some point, there's only 1 lane, right?
It then merges back into 1 and then it goes back out, yeah. But the proposed condition is very typical and standard operating procedure for Chick-Fil-A program-wide. It just so
Not for the
happens,
site.
well, no, but it works, but the system
Yeah.
works.
Okay, well, just wanted to voice my concern for that, because I think that you change the routine and all of a sudden you have people looking the wrong way. It's just an observation.
Anybody else?
I think it removes a merge and it probably adds to this, as you said, the safety. Being a customer, I know that that's a bottleneck, so I think it, looks good.
Is there a motion on this application, its conditions and requests for waivers, exceptions?
I'll make a motion to approve, subject to all of the carry forward conditions and.
The canopy, not
Yeah.
canopy, the standard conditions.
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Webster, second. Karen, roll
Okay,
call
did I
please.
get, it was Mr. Carr and,
Mr.
No, Mr.
McCabe and
McCabe.
Mr. Webster.
Mr. Webster.
Doug
okay,
McCabe.
okay,
Bob Webster, second.
Mrs. Cortese,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. McCabe,
Yes.
Mr. Webster,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Rizos,
Yes.
and Mr. Cianciano.
Yes.
All right, your application's been approved. This action requires a resolution to memorialize the board's action on the application for the record. This will be on the agenda for next month's regular.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Nice seeing everybody. Have a good night, folks.
All right, correspondence and bills, do you have any? All right. Any new business? Any old business? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 8:20.